Hey,
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
welcome back. Or as Mac has been reiterating the last two episodes,
Welcome
back. Uh, in our very crude 1950s announcer voices. Yes, welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Battle Bros podcast, and I'm Alamo, and this guy over here.
I would be Mac just by clear elimination, process
Yeah,
of elimination.
indeed, yes.
If you're new to this show, we want to say welcome. Hopefully, you like what we're all about. We started this almost 4 months ago now, which is just still shocking to believe that we started it that long ago. This is our 15th episode, and it's just like,
Yeah.
holy shit, has it been that long already? Damn.
And that's the crazy shit, man, is that it has been that long.
No, absolutely right.
We are now able to unlock sponsorship. So sponsors, bring it our way, and we'll start making you some extra moolah there.
We will whore
announcing.
ourselves out. Just try us.
Indeed.
Dare ya. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna shut up now. So anyway, like I said, we're two guys that have known each other since high school. We got together earlier this year, and in an effort to kind of work together, just have a legitimate reason for us to do absolutely nothing good and clown around and be stupid. We said, "Oh, let's put on a podcast." Well, it can't be that hard. Well, no, man. They put a monkey in outer space, and it knew how to fly a spaceship. Solid point. So, if you're coming back to the show, we want to say welcome back. We appreciate you coming by again. Hopefully, you still like what you hear. If not, tell us what we can do to get better. We're 15 shows in, but we are still definitely a new podcast. So, this is how we grow, is how we get better from constructive criticism. Constructive criticism, not just, the white guy's got a big ass dome. Okay. First off, I know I've known my entire life. It's all good.
It's okay. They're probably just gonna look at me and say, "Hey, that guy's got some chiclet teeth." But
nice.
Yeah, heard that one plenty when I was a kid. Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, again, if you're new, if you're coming back, we want to say welcome. Appreciate you stopping by. We talk about things with the veteran community that either need to be said or just are kind of stigma. We have no qualms about just saying, well, nobody wants to talk about. Well, guess what we're going to talk about? Ta-da! And there we go. So
yeah, basically.
So if you caught some of our shows previously, we've been doing some good stuff. We think. If not, hey, tell us. We did a tribute show for 9/11, which is our 10th episode. We did the legacy of 9/11, and then we also talked about being stuck in a rut. We talked about motivation, and then last week was very special because we had our first guest ever on the show, and that was the lovely Mrs. Alamo. She was
indeed
able to stop by and talk to us about the spouse perspective on certain topics that we've discussed already. So again, we want to say thanks to Tisha for stopping by. And if you get a chance, check out her social media presence. It is a flip side of mentorship. It is a very worthy and noble cause, and it is just a super cool thing to be a part of. So check it out. You'll dig it. If you don't, well, why the fuck would you? So, like we said last week, we talked about the spouse perspective on a lot of episodes, just from the view of the military wife and whatnot, and just the wife in general. We haven't really had a chance to discuss that, and I think it was a great addition to the show lineup. So this week we're going to do, it was a good one. But this week we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're going to talk about kind of somewhat based in the world of psychology. We are going to talk about the inferiority complex. Now, this is kind of a big deal, and we're going to discuss it from the perspective of, two guys that have been through this, but not just from the civilian side, but there is such a thing that exists in the military, and we'll kind of delve into that a little bit later in the show. But so let's get started off. You ready to hit the ground running there, brother?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Here we go. All right. So, definition of inferiority complex. Per the source that I looked up, it is an intense personal feeling of inadequacy, often resulting in the belief that one is in some way deficient or inferior to others. Okay. So basically, it's just you feel like you aren't on the same level. Like you might feel like the guys that you're around are major league, and you're sitting there like, fuck, I'm in little league. This
Yeah.
is crap. So I've
Oh
had
yeah.
this, and anybody, I'm sure anybody now in this day and age has gone through something like that on at least once, maybe more. I've had it happen a couple of times. So being in high school, I was heavily involved in the music program. I was in the band program at my high school and did marching band in football season. In the second half of the year, we did symphonic and concert band, all that kind of stuff. And just all the band nerd jokes just come out. Oh, you're a band nerd. Oh, why don't you play sports? Because our high school had a decent football
Ooh,
team when
did
we
you
were
go
there.
to band camp?
And 1001. And yeah, so there's that. So there's that kind of stuff in high school, and I'm sure Alamo here being he later got involved in the drama department. That's correct, right?
hmm
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I actually went to one. You were in the production of To Kill a Mockingbird, right?
No, I did want to do that. I did want to do that though, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, we actually never actually acted on it.
So what
Um,
play did I see you in high school? I forget.
oh God, I don't even remember, man. There were a few. There was a comedy. Um,
Lame.
yeah, there was a drama that I was involved in that I can't remember. What the
But
heck
did
was
you
it?
ever did you ever get razz for being in dramatic arts and
Oh
doing drama
yeah,
class?
the jokes about being of that demographic and all that good stuff. I'm pretty sure we know what we're talking about here. We don't need to
Mhm.
actually, number one, because I don't want to get flagged, because YouTube algorithms are fucking weird. And yeah, so but yeah, so yeah,
And they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Anyway, sorry, I
yeah,
just said it.
exactly. Yeah.
That's my creepy Halloween voice.
Yeah, you gotta use your inside voice from time to time. It happens. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so as a matter of fact, I did play a character in that demographic as well. So that kind of,
Sure.
but it it is what it is. The role that I played, I know in that play, um I guess because I took the drama so seriously, got some like really good pauses from people in the audience. So it was fun.
Hey man, that's all you can do. Go out there and give it your all. Like we say in the Battlebrook Code, what is it? Be
Be
tenacious.
tenacious.
And if you can be tenacious D because they're fucking awesome. To
Exactly.
knock, yes, D. Anyway,
I'm sorry. Tangent. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
love
Go
those
ahead.
guys. But the same thing can happen in the military as well. So I would say with Alamo being an active duty member, I'm a member of the active duty component, and myself, I spent my entire career in the National Guard. Deployed once, so we got spun up and called up and went on Title 10 orders for active duty and whatnot for deployment. But I had a very interesting experience one time. Besides all the pejoratives and the nicknames, getting called weekend warrior, nasty girl, and all this kind of crap.
Mhm.
We were talking about this show earlier this week on like we usually do, and I brought up a story where I was driving for Uber, which I used to do for almost just shy of 2 years, just to kind of supplement some income. I was in between serious jobs, and even once I started the next job, which I'm currently working, I still did it just on the weekends and stuff for a couple of reasons, but that's another story and another time and another show altogether. So I
Indeed.
was driving somewhere in South Tampa area, in a Soho area and whatnot, and I picked up two individuals, and the one guy was sitting next to me in the passenger seat, another guy was in the back. And we got to talking about the military because I think at the time it had an option where you could put on your profile as a driver that you were a veteran, you know? So that
Really?
kind of, yeah, at the time it was, you had to like, give some, you had to like kind of verify it or whatnot, but you
Why the
could put,
fuck didn't I ever get that kind of option? That sucks, anus. But anyway, go ahead.
because you were in Orlando and, Tampa's a little bit more of a military town, obviously, since, McDill's there, SOCOM, CENTCOM. So,
Okay. Gotcha.
hell, think of all the retirees that retire there, man. Like Schwarzkopf lived in Tampa after he retired from being the CENTCOM commander. It's like, heck yeah. But anyway, so we're sitting there just kind of shooting the breeze, and the guy in the back seat says, we kind of just brought up the military, and I was like, he just had just gotten back from basic training. He was getting ready to leave to go to report to his first duty station. Something along those lines. Either he had already gone to his first duty station or whatever. I don't remember the 100% exact details, but I think his permanent duty station was, at the time, it was Fort Drum, which is up in New York. Everybody knows them from being home of the 10th Mountain Division, all that kind of stuff. It's a very storied unit from World War II and all the way up into the global war on terrorism, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I said, "I hear that's a cool opportunity. There's a lot of fun stuff to do up there." And kind of asked me, he's like, "Were you in?" I was like, "Yeah, I spent 6 years in an infantry unit in Central Florida." He goes, "Were you a reservist?" I said, "Yeah, I was in the National Guard with the infantry brigade here in Florida." He goes, "Oh, that's not really the military." And I was just like, the way he said it and the tone, I was just like, "What? Huh?" And the guy in the seat next to me, he goes, "Oh shit, here we go." And he said something along the lines of like, he's like, "Dude, don't start." I said, No, sir." I said, "I would love to hear your friend's opinion, as asinine as it may be." And he's like, "What do you mean asinine?" I'm like, "Just why do you think we're not a real part of the military?" He goes, "Well, you guys only go to drill 1 week in a month." And I'm like, "Okay. What else? What else you got? What other empirical evidence do you have to formulate this opinion?" He goes, "But I mean, you guys don't deploy as much." I'm like, "Uh-huh. What else?" He goes, "Well, that's it, man." I was like, "Okay, so your 2 comment points are kind of weak, my man. Like, if I was an attorney, I could just poke holes in your story. Like, it's gonna be terrible." I said, "First off, I said, you gotta understand, when I went through infantry school at Fort Benning in 2003, I went through the same training as all of my active duty counterparts. The only time you knew somebody was different was when they were going through the chow hall, and you had to say whatever branch you were or whatever component. You had to say active duty, and you said the last 4 of your serial number of your social security number.
Social Security.
Like, yeah, so mine was like National Guard, XYZA, whatever. I'm not going to give that out, Duh.
Yeah, of course not.
So that's the only time you know the difference. We went through the same training. I didn't get a half certification because I was feeling, I was going to end up going to the National Guard. And even at basic training, I just remember this too. Like, even when I was at basic training, some of these guys that were already going to go active duty and may have had airborne contracts or ranger contracts, like, "Yeah, you National Guard guys, you'd be good at filling up those fucking sandbags." And one of the guys who ended up not going through basic because he had an ulcer in his stomach, he was just like, "Dude, some of us have already been in for a year." Because they used to have this thing where it was called split ops. So you could go and do basic training one summer, at least become like, basic certified, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Go to your unit, and then the next summer come back and do AIT. So you do the first 9 weeks one summer, and then the following summer do the 5 weeks of AIT. I don't think they do that anymore, but I'm not 100% certain because I know they just
I don't think they do it anymore. No, I think you're right about that, man.
Because they just upped the total length of infantry school from 14 to 22 weeks. a lot more stuff, and it's good because you got a lot of guys actually going and they're doing better on weapons qualification, they're doing better on PT and this, that, and the other. So if it means that we come out better prepared to join the force and be an asset to our unit, as opposed to, oh, here he comes fresh out of basic, this guy's going to be dragging ass and sucking wind. We want to, you don't want to have that stigma attached to you. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing. So going back to the Uber story, and the guys, I told the guys that, so, okay, yeah, we only go to drill 1 week in a month. However, you also have to juggle your professional life, your family life. If you're in college, your college life, and then your military life. You can't get kicked out of school for going, or you can't get kicked out of the military for going to school, but you can potentially lose your job for having to go to the military so much. And it happened to a friend of mine. He was getting a work eval done on his workmanship at work, and they didn't score him as high because they said, well, you're always gone. And he's like, no, you really can't do that. You can't hold military duty against me. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, it's called USERRA, and it is the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. You cannot have your military service held against you in a detrimental way. So, and I'm explaining this to this guy. I'm like, we got to juggle all this stuff. I said, I said, let me tell you something, dude. I've got more time in an Army latrine than you've got in the Army, period. So I would just recommend and suggest that you just get a little bit more humble, And then this guy, as he's getting out, because I dropped him off at their destination, he's just like, I wasn't trying to pick on you, dude. I'm like, no, you totally were. It's good. I get it. But at the same time, when we all remember, Macho, you remember, dude, like we got out of base training, you were just, full of piss and vinegar, and you were just cock of the walk. You're just like, doing all this. I mean, you're practically walking. Excuse the Disney reference here, but you're practically walking around like Gaston out of freaking Beauty and the Beast. It's like, I'm awesome, big barrel chested, just dweebus that's just full of shit or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and I don't know where this comes from. I mean, I do, but when you're ingrained and indoctrinated with all the military training you go through, they make you and build you up like that.
Yeah.
They get you to the point of being like, yeah, you're
young, dumb, and full of
that. Yeah. We're going to leave that alone. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, you go through all that nonsense of, they just kind of build you up and put you on a pedestal. But what you don't know is that there's always somebody that's going to be doing the next higher echelon thing. So, when you're a straight leg guy like we were, you've got airborne guys after that. After you go airborne, then you go ranger, and you got guys that are SF, So in researching this topic, and thank you for bearing with me on that little bit of a long-winded story. In researching the topic for this week's show, I was talking to my friend Brian, who is my psychology source on a lot of things. So shout out to Brian. Appreciate you.
Shout out to Brian, bro.
Yeah, man. He gave the example of, think about, you have the Navy SEALs. So they're probably one of, if not the premier, special operations force in the military today. Arguable point, not going past that. Everybody has their own slice of the pie that they take care of. Rangers have their skill set, and SEALs have their skill set, green beanies, JTACs, all that stuff. Okay, everybody's got their own little slice of the pie they got going on. But imagine this. You have a guy who is in the SEALs maybe during the Cold War. So he's running around doing some clandestine shit. Is he getting into firefighting and taking contact? Probably not.
I would venture to say probably not.
Probably not.
Like during Cold War, I mean, like their main operations were mainly like just
getting guys from the East that wanted to defect to the West.
Yeah, essentially.
So if you look up, there's a guy named Pat McNamara. His name goes by Pat Mac on social media. He has his own
stuff.
Average dude, basic dude stuff. That's what
basic dude stuff. Yeah, basic dude stuff.
A really funny guy. He retired as a sergeant major out of Delta. still looks like he can still whip a motherfucker's ass, like straight up. Like
Oh
he's
yeah,
just works out a lot, but he's
no
got a
doubt.
lot of stuff. And he actually, this is what he did when he was a young guy coming up through the ranks of, special forces, all that kind of stuff. He was in Berlin, having all these plans in place for guys that wanted to defect it, get in contact with them, defect them over to the West, all that kind of jazz. But anyway, like I was saying, imagine you have, a couple of guys sitting around, like they have these big SEAL reunions every so often, like once a year or whatnot. And you've got a guy that's maybe a Cold War SEAL who didn't deploy, did some cool high speed shit in his day during that context, during that time. But then you've got a younger cat who is a SEAL that was in somebody kind of along the lines of like a Chris Kyle, who went over to Iraq 4 times during global war on terrorism. You went from being, pre 9/11, where nothing happened, to post 9/11, where our, deployment cycle ramped up. I mean, hell, we had the size of the forces themselves, different, like Air Force had over 1 million airmen in it, and that's like one of the first few times that's happened, I believe, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I mean, you imagine the conversation
Like a million personnel.
1 million personnel in the Air Force, which is
Shit.
not that common. Yeah, because they had a lot of dudes back then. But
I thought they were at like the like 700,000 mark or something like that.
I think they were, and then they just swelled by that many people. So, anyways, you kind of see where we're going. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I know our numbers, as in like the Army, swelled, and I only say that because when I was in basic, there was like, and this is like 2005. The basic, the trainees that went through basic during the time that I went through, like it was so backed up, especially just trying to get people to different schools like Airborne and Air Assault and all these other different schools that you were trying to go to. It was so bad. Like I think I might have spoken about it on the show. Like I actually ended up getting an airborne contract because one of the recruits in my platoon ended up giving up his his ranger school and all that stuff, and his ranger school ended up coming with airborne, so they had to fill those 2 different slots for what he was doing at some point. So I was like, hey, I'll take airborne. And the unfortunate thing was that they ended up not sending me because there was such a backup of recruits going through all these schools.
Of course.
So, yeah.
I mean, I even think when I remember when I went through, they only had like 5 battalions, I think. At Sand Hill, it was 119, 219, 254, 258, and then 150. And then I think they added possibly a 6th battalion to handle the influx of guys. I mean,
yeah,
it's a lot of people. But anyway, so you kind of see, how even though you have these guys, these stoic warriors like SEALs, there might be a little bit of an inferiority complex because the guy was in, quote unquote peacetime, because it was a Cold War, but it wasn't like an active, unless you're talking about like a proxy war like Korea or Vietnam or something like that. If you were like late 80s up into the 90s until we had the first Gulf War, wasn't a lot of stuff going on, versus a guy who was in GWAT, and it's just like he deployed an ass ton of times. So all that good stuff. So, it's kind of interesting how all that kind of stuff happens. So, what I also wanted to bring up was the fact that there's something kind of sort of related to the inferiority complex, and that is the superiority complex. So this is related to it, is related to the inferiority complex is a superiority complex. This is a psychological defense mechanism in which a person's outward display of superiority displaces or conceals their feelings of inferiority. Differentiated, I'm sorry, let me cut that part. The superiority complex results in vulgar displays of self-worth or status stemming from underlying feelings of inferiority. And as soon as I read this, it made me immediately think of an example. Being a reservist, you have these guys that just have regular jobs, But, being an infantry unit, we're kind of expected to have a certain level of, prestige and badassery, so to speak. But you have these guys where they would come to drill and they were just absolute dicks to other people, like their lower enlisted people underneath them, because their civilian job was that they were a bag boy at Publix. And then you go to drill and now your staff sergeant in charge of, 8 dudes.
Yeah.
So you're going to take advantage of that while you can, because the next month you're just going to be like,
You're going to be
plastic,
Mr. Peon again.
Exactly. So, and it makes total sense. I mean, I can totally understand that. However, for me, I've just had enough experiences with not the best leadership at times. Don't get me wrong. I've had fantastic leaders throughout my career, officers, NCOs, warrant officers. I've been very fortunate to have some good people to be mentored by and from. But you're always going to have that little bit of people where you're just like, eh. So, and especially when they come off like that, you end up feeling like a little, like just minor, and you're just like, eh. You just feel like it's total, just absolute garbage and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
it sucks. It totally does. So,
yeah, man.
So some of the signs of inferiority complex is going to be very similar to depression. Just kind of seeming like they're a little bit off their game. Where was it here? So, yeah, it occurs basically when the feelings of inferiority are intensified in the individual through discouragement or failure. Those who are at risk for developing the complex include people who show signs of low self-esteem or self-worth. Blah, blah, blah. Tonight. Jesus. It's been a long day, dude. These long days are killing me. Have low status in their peer group. They may also display symptoms similar to depression, like I just said. Children reared in household where the parents are perceived as having overbearing expectations may also develop an inferiority complex as well. Like for the folks that are just expected, like in certain cultures or certain, ethnic backgrounds, they're just expected to be excellent at everything they do, from the word go of VPK all the way up through college and all this stuff. So I totally get it. So, what are the effects of inferiority complex? Well, it's definitely going to have effect on your on your subconscious. Your self-esteem, like we just mentioned, it's going to be totally just, garbage. You're going to have a lot of negative thoughts, not very uplifting. So, what can we do about that? So we checked I found 2 different articles what we're going to reference here. The first one is going to talk about, I'm going to cut that off. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up my stuff here. So the first one that we're going to talk about, they have 5 different ways to counteract inferiority complex. Okay. So the first one being that you want to build self-confidence. Treat yourself better, act confident, do what you love, embrace yourself. Is there anything in your body that you don't feel confident about? Maybe your smile, your nose, your hair. The trick here is to either accept yourself the way that you are or do something about it. Okay. And the easiest way that I can reference this is to bring up once again, your lovely wife. If you have, people around you that aren't the best people, that aren't rooting for you, why the fuck are they around you? Why are they in your circle? So something she taught me earlier.
Change your circle, you change your life.
There you go. Change your circle, change your life. And I really thought about that one day, and I was like, man, that's deep. That's some
deep shizzle.
That's some dope stuff right there. Absolutely. So surround yourself with uplifting people. It's important to realize that your inferiority complex might be linked to those people around you. It might be your relatives, your friends at college, your siblings, or your colleagues. Analyze your interactions with them. Now, this may be a little bit of a stretch, but there's, I believe, a syndrome called Munchausen or Munchausen or something like that, Munchausen by proxy. And basically what happens is the person gets sick from being around another person. Okay. Basically, like when they're around this person, they start to feel ill, show signs of not feeling well, being under the weather, having some type of ailment or something. They go to the hospital, they're not around that person, and they just miraculously get better. They go back home or to wherever their living situation is, get put back in that same situation, and everything just starts to nosedive and decline right from there again. So it's kind of that's probably a little bit of a stretch, but I would say it's probably something, similar in the fact that if you stay around that negativity, man, that shit's going to drain on you and just wear your ass down. And it's so good, man. Like, just freaking, you got to get out of that stuff. So,
Yeah.
the next bullet point that they had in this, did you want to say something, dude? I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep.
No.
You.
I totally get and agree with a lot of this stuff, man. Like I've had, because when I originally wanted to join the army, I had this whole thing of I wanted to be the best warrior I could be. I wanted to be the hardest of the hard. I wanted to be that hardcore son of a bitch that, runs into a house and comes out with the blood of my enemies on me, after killing like 20 of them. But we're
good, folks. Before we get comments, no, he's good. We check him out. He's all right. But you got to understand, you have to understand that you do get indoctrinated like that. You do get indoctrinated, especially being a combat arms guy. You're going to get indoctrinated with that kind of mentality of like, go in there and be the most ruthless, badass sumbitch you can be, come out alive. So there's kind of a point to it.
Army. But
there is no such thing. That's why the lowest form of organization in the military is a battle buddy team. So, and here we are, the battle bros. Absolutely.
But yeah, man, like I remember going through, a whole lot of stuff in my head, like thinking to myself, like, oh well, I didn't get this, I didn't get this, I didn't get this, and for a long time, it kind of bugged me. It made me feel like, man, I could have done so much better with what I have right now.
Oh yeah.
God, excuse me. Jesus. That came out of nowhere.
Okay. And this is a live show, folks. So there we go. We got the spontaneous component to it.
But so I it was one of those things where I struggled for a long time with trying to figure out a way to show I had what it took to kind of, be that guy, that kind of go-to guy. And every time I kind of failed to kind of, or at least what I felt was like failing to show that, it sucked. It sucked. And even to this day, which I think we'll talk about the civilian side of it too here in a little bit, but like even to this day, like I still feel like there was way more I could have done in my military career. I still feel like I didn't do as much as I should have or could have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you also have to temper that with the fact too of, as you discussed in the last couple episodes, you got out because you were gonna have a family, and that's not taking the chicken shit way out. I mean, you're just switching your priorities. Your priorities are, I'm gonna do the best I can to protect my country, scratch out country and insert family. I mean, you're still doing the same thing, although slightly different processes and procedures and all that stuff. You're still out there being a guardian to somebody, and that's your wife and your two boys. So
and it was and exactly. And it's funny too, because like one of the articles that you had up, like the one thing that stuck out to me when I was kind of like breezing through them was this portion, which I think you're going to get to this next article here soon, but it's called The Failure Life Trap, which I'm gonna read it off for you. Just real quick. It says the failure life trap, or schema, is a pattern of thinking and behavior that has its roots in childhood. It may result from being constantly criticized by your parent and can lead to self-sabotaging behavior. You see yourself and your achievements as never meeting the standards of your peers, and you give up trying, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. remember what my wife talked about last episode, where there was a lot of things that I kind of left undone, but when in my younger years.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I remember that.
I think in large portion, like that right there explains kind of like what my life was in a large aspect as to, or excuse me, in a large aspect with my military career. I was not living up to what I thought was what should have been the standard for me
Well,
as
your potential.
exactly as a military, as yeah, as a as a military man, and therefore I just didn't continue trying to do better.
So, and I can kind of put that in perspective the same way too. One of the things that I was ready to go in and stand, but one of the big things that kind of did it for me, and I know people are going to be like, "Dude, that's everywhere you go." Was the politics, was the office politics, the good old boy
Yeah.
system, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's like the National Guard and the reserves are kind of have the very bad stigma of having that be attached to it, and in some cases, it's absolutely true, and in other cases, it's not so much. You know, I got tired of the fact. So in my old battalion, you had a lot of guys that like my buddy Brian, um, and the guys that he served with that went and they were in Iraq when everything kicked off in '03. Those guys all stayed in together. A lot of these guys are in the higher echelons now. I've got several friends of mine that are, up there like E8s, E9s. My old squad leader is now the state sergeant major for recruiting for the National
Yeah.
Guard Bureau and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, there's just all that, camaraderie there together, which is great, you know, but it got to the point of being cliquish because, they were asking like they were trying to see about getting guys promoted and this, that, and the other, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, did you go to Did you go to Iraq? You went with us, right?" I'm like, "No, I went to Afghanistan, Sergeant." "Oh, you didn't go to Iraq?" I'm like, "No, I went to Afghanistan, Sergeant. I was in OEF 4, Operation Phoenix 4." "So you didn't go to Iraq?" Negative, Sergeant." Like, "Oh, okay. Well, we'll take a look at your stuff," and go out the door. And the next guy comes up behind me. "Hey, man, did you go to Iraq?" "Yeah." "All right, cool. Absolutely. We're gonna try to get you promoted." I'm just like, okay. Now, and
Yeah.
again, and I know that's politics everywhere you go, but like you just military is kind of like first responders, like firefighters and cops and stuff. They're just held to a higher standard. Now,
Yeah.
and I know that that's, kind of a little bit unreasonable because at the root of the whole thing, you still have the human component. So
Yeah.
there is that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like, I served with some really cool guys, and it was kind of a bummer for other guys that were in there that were had the similar experiences with them to treat people like that. So I was just like, yeah, I'm good. My other big gripe, I wish that I had, I did go overseas. I did deploy. I was in a, forward deployed area and stuff, but I never got my CIB. So every time I see guys that, for those of you that don't know, that's your combat infantry badge, which basically says you have been in action for the most part.
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, it's that thing right there.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that pretty much says that you've been in combat, you've had your metal tested and all that kind of stuff. Where we were at in country, it was, pretty quiet. It was up in the northern part. They were pretty much pro US for the most part up there.
Yeah.
So, we really didn't have a whole lot happen. So, it's kind of a sore point. Yeah, I did deploy. Yeah, I did go downrange. I did, go over and do my job and everything else. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said for that. I'm a combat veteran because I went overseas, I guess you could say. And some people might disagree with this opinion. I've had several people tell me like, "Dude, you went overseas, you're a combat vet." I'm like, "I wasn't in combat though." They're like, "Well, you went over there." I'm like, "Potato bowling shoes. We'll just argue a different point of
I'm gonna
view
tell
here."
you this. I honestly value the EIB more than I value my combat infantryman's badge, and I never got a chance to get that. I failed halfway through that shit. So
True.
I wouldn't say to beat yourself up too much about it, because
Well, and
I failed at something I wanted to get really badly, and I didn't get it.
No,
So
I get you, man. And I mean, like one of the cool things that I got to do that I wasn't even planning on was I got to do the shoots and sneer, which is the German Armed Forces proficiency
I
badge.
wanted to do that, and
I'm sorry, it's a marksmanship decoration. So basically, it's on you wear it, the way you wear it is it's like a big medallion which has like that imperial German eagle on a
yep,
medallion here, and then it has a rope, a cord that goes down and attaches underneath your lapel.
yeah,
It's pretty cool. Not too many guys get them, but we had some guys that came down from CENTCOM to Camp Blanding or came up to Camp Blanding, so we got to shoot their weapon systems. Now, we didn't do the complete one where it was like we did rifle and pistol, but you're all supposed to do heavy machine gun, light machine gun. But their embassy was like new rifle and pistol. Okay, which basically it's just a G36 and it's a USP 9mm. So I was like, I
yeah.
got this, and I shot silver on it, which is like their equivalent of sharpshooter. So I was like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean,
Pretty cool.
it's kind of a little bit of it used to be a lot more of a sore point that I didn't have a CIB, but I've kind of through
Yeah,
talking to people, I've made my peace with it and all that kind of jazz. But anyway, so it's everywhere you go in the military. I mean, it's crazy, and that's kind of a good point of right here on the next bullet point on this article is don't be harsh on yourself. There's
yeah,
absolutely no need to be harsh on yourself. Practice self-care, love yourself, be kind to yourself. Do not overanalyze situations. I'm a Virgo. I'm guilty as sin about that. So that's like, yeah, that's not as easier said than done. Do not expect yourself to change overnight. Give yourself time to heal. And then the last point in this one article was self-talk. Practice positive self-talk. Encourage yourself. Praise yourself for all the good traits that you have. People who have an inferiority complex tend to do negative self-talk to themselves. Try to change the tone and your words that you use for yourself. Listen, being, the fact that I'm an Army vet, military vet, like I do something dumb, I'm like, oh, you freaking idiot, you dumb dick. So what were you thinking? Like,
yeah.
you just do that because it's kind of familiar, you have that
And
kind
I do that shit all the time. I'm
of
probably the most guilty of just
like
absolutely insulting myself when I feel like
you're
I'm doing
walking,
something
yeah.
wrong.
You're walking in your room and you like stub your pinky toe on the foot of the bed. You're like, oh, seriously, you're fucking retarded. And I don't like to say that word out loud because it's not exactly PC anymore. But in my head, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I call myself a goober and much worse
Oh yeah.
all the damn time, So, okay, so another article that we were able to source was talking about how to overcome, some different aspects of inferiority complex, and what it was talking about. Let me see here. So the first bullet point it said was make fewer comparisons. So going down to this, find the first spot. So, social media can lead to unhealthy comparisons for some people. Now, this I think is a very, very good point that they bring up with this. Perfectly captured, cropped, and filtered images on Instagram can make it seem that everyone is better looking than you and enjoying a more glamorous lifestyle. But social media isn't real life, and you're only seeing a highly edited, curated subset of someone else's best moments. I mean, think about it. They're not putting this stuff on there to make them look bad. They're going for the people to smash that like and subscribe button or whatnot to get followers, to get
Yep.
likes, and all that kind of crap. So I'm very, very glad that they included that in this particular conversation about this. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, fewer comparisons. If you find the endless social media scroll is making you feel inferior, try to restrict the time you spend on these platforms. That's very, very, very valid point. Okay. The next point they have is practice gratitude. Research shows that if you're grateful for the things in your life, you'll tend to make fewer comparisons with other people. What are you grateful for? Make a list. Make things that you have to be grateful for. So I can easily just say it like this. Is it shitty that I never got the chance to earn the CIB? A little part of me still feels like that because I would own that. That's something like they tell you from day one of base training. It's like, this is what your goal is as an infantryman, is to go out there and try to earn this shit,
Yeah.
But as my mom will say, she goes, "I'm so glad that you came home mostly intact." She goes, "I worry about you upstairs in that headspace of yours. Physically, you're okay. Mentally, you're a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs." I was like, Gee, thanks, Mom." She goes, "Well, I'm gonna tell you how I see the things." So absolutely. Just kidding, Mom. I love you. Um, but the fortunate thing is there's a lot of guys that come home that have injuries. I know several people that have been blown up, that have been injured in IED, VBIEDs, EFP types of injuries and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, counting my blessings, yeah, I came home pretty much in good working order. Um, so if that means I don't get my CIB, hey, is what it is. So, next point that they made was challenge your thinking. So, one of the most effective things you can do is to challenge any unhelpful thinking styles and negative thoughts that leave you feeling inferior, unworthy, and defective. This is something that therapy can help with. Now, if you have the ability to go see someone who is trained and educated in therapy techniques and whatnot, do it. I mean,
Educated.
hell yeah. These people are just here to help you out and be able to kind of get you kind of back up in the saddle on that horse going through your life saying, I'm living my best life, but not social media best life, like living your best life, so to speak. Okay. So the next point, this is something that I kind of go a little bit both ways on. So the next bullet point was don't rely on positive affirmations. This sounds counterintuitive, as we're often told that repeating positive affirmations can boost self-esteem. But research shows that while this may work for people who are already confident, if you have low self-esteem, it can make you feel worse. Challenging your thinking is more effective. And the fact that, when Alamo and I worked together at a firearms retailer in a certain department, you know, the management usually would only come around if they needed us to give somebody the special VIP treatment, or if something was busted wrong, or we're getting a complaint about something being busted
Mhm.
or broken. So other
Yep.
than that, we were pretty much just kind of like, all right, you guys know what you're doing, just go, whatever. And I had another experience very similar to that where, kind of from that first situation I just described, going into a new position at a new retailer, I had one of the owners come by and he was just like, I just want to tell you, you're doing a great job, Mac. I'm like, I honestly, what was that movie? That movie, what's that movie? The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Is he sitting there? He's just like,
Talladega Nights.
yes. I literally sat here and on the inside, I'm just like scratching out. I'm just like, I don't know what to
I don't
do with
know
my
what to do.
hand. Yeah, I was like, "Can you just tell me?" Now, my owner at this,
Car
the owner,
drove good. And
car ran really good. Guys in the pit crew did a good job. Yeah, exactly. But this owner that I had, he was a very, very gracious gentleman, and he was just like, "I just want to tell you, you're doing a great job." And I'm just like, "Wow, that still kind of exists," because the other owner didn't really have that same kind of business mentality. And
yeah,
that's not either here nor there. It's just how this person was. They were very kind of, I hate to say business old school, but there's still kind of that crap that goes on where it's like, oh, that old excuse of, oh, it's just business. It's like, no, it's like, don't let it be a business excuse. Just be human and like treat people like people instead of
yeah,
falling back on that tired old bullshit excuse. So, but this particular guy, like I said, is a very gracious gentleman, very respectful, very polite, just kind, incredibly kind. You had no choice to willingly respect him and admire him because of how he was. He was just treated everybody, walk up, shake your hand, say how you're doing, how's your wife doing, how's your kids, all that kind of stuff. Just very, very personable. And he came up and he just said, "Hey, I just want to tell you, you're doing a great job. I appreciate all the hard work you're doing." I'm just like, um, I really don't know how to say that or what to say to that. Can you just tell me that I'm worthless and that like I suck at this? I said, and that was just comfortable. That was familiar to me, It's just like I know what to do, and then I was like, okay, so I work harder. We'll try to fix things. But to just get that, and just so unabashedly, he's just like, hey man, y'all are kicking ass. Like you're doing everything we blah, blah, blah,
axe sound like my mother.
you're doing where you guys are doing everything that is being asked of you and
There you
more.
go, there, Bill.
My name is Mac, and I have mush mouth, and I'm sorry, but I'm working on that. Doggone it, people like me. Okay, so yeah, it's just it's terrible. Like that's the only bad thing about doing a podcast on a Friday night is at the end of the week your brain's just mush. You're just like blah, 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 trying to get yourself to
Yeah,
freaking
pretty much.
regurgitate stuff. So the next point that this article has: give yourself a chance. If you tend to avoid situations where you could fail, excuse me, or might feel inadequate, try instead to put yourself in situations where realistic achievements are possible. Okay. Another thing I relate to that is when I was in high school being a band student, one of the things that we were required to do was we had to make an audition tape for various one of the different like organizations throughout like the county, the state. Like we had all county, we had all state, we had quad county, we had tri-state. There was several different types of things you go to, and what you do is you go with all of these players, these other musicians that are just really good at what they do. So it's like having an all-star team that plays instruments. So they're really good, and it's great because I wish I'd had the wisdom I have about this kind of excuse me, about this stuff now is like you go and you meet these people and you learn tips of the trade and you learn how to get better as a player or different things and this, that, and the other. And you make these friendships and these connections and whatnot. And I was just of the person like, I am going to make the tape because I'm required to do so, but I don't really want to go to any of these things because like I'm good for me and I'm okay with that. I don't need somebody else to tell me that I'm good. I said, I'm good for me. I'm where I'm supposed to be. And that's that. So, that's how I kind of compare that. Do you have anything you want to add to that there, bud?
Well, and we're talking about like just I'm having a total brain fart right now. I had it in my head and now I lost it.
See, Friday nights. This is what happens.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Plus, you got to understand, folks, that when we get together, like a hilarity ensues. So, like, we're usually just sitting here, just kind of screwing around, dicking around, and they're just like, "What are we doing?"
Pretty much, yeah.
Fuck, I forgot.
Yeah.
If it comes back to you, man, what were you gonna
yeah,
say?
no, yeah, I was never like I know when I was in high school, I was never really one of those people that like really kind of tooted my own horn. I was, I'm not gonna say that I was humble. I was just never really, I guess you could say, confident or well, actually,
Overconfidence.
yeah, I was never really overconfident in what I was able to do or what I could do. I always tried to really keep myself what's the word?
Grounded, humble.
Try to keep myself grounded. Yeah, I was, but then again, I also always did have kind of like a self confidence thing going on. Like I wasn't, huh?
Oh, said, oh yeah, me too, man.
Like I wasn't like because I was never overtly confident, but I was never truly like not confident. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Or lacking of
Yeah,
confidence. Yeah.
or lacking of confidence. But my self confidence was definitely limited, to say the least.
I
You know
got
what I'm
you.
saying?
No, I mean, especially where we went to high school. I mean, like there was
Yeah.
clearly the hierarchy between the classes and whatnot. I
Oh
mean,
God,
hell,
yeah.
especially when you start off as a freshman, you just feel like a little tiny minnow in a freaking shark tank. You're just like, oh shit, somebody's gonna like literally just eat me here any minute. Like it's terrible.
Yeah.
And then you make
By
out
the
of that
way, if
first
you guys
year.
hear my dog in the background, I really do apologize. She's again, she's an idiot. I've said it before on the podcast, but she is an idiot.
Hey, she's keeping you safe, dude. Respect.
Yeah,
Respect.
also true. Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know why I did that. That was weird. So the so the last 2 points that this article had to help out with the inferiority complex. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness meditation
Yeah.
helps bring you back to the present moment instead of ruminating on past mistakes or worrying about the future. Research shows that mindfulness can increase self acceptance, which may reduce your feelings of inferiority. And again, me being a Virgo, I have that problem where I am very critical of my failures. um I remember one time, and my two brothers, and they watch this, they're gonna laugh because they know the story. My mom, if she ever does watch the show, will laugh too. But anyway, um friggin' I was with my dad. My dad and I used to work together before I left for basic training, and then after I got back, and especially after I got back from Afghanistan. And I was going across. We worked in the golf course business, and I was going across and made a mistake and kind of just did something that was totally preventable. And he was just like, ugh. And he just kept drilling it. And I was like, listen, because he was a little bit of a perfectionist, and there's nothing wrong with that. We were both Virgos. He has trained me to a much higher level of performance than the other crews did. So I did something really dumb, and I just totally ate it. I was like, listen, you are absolutely 100% right. I was not paying attention. I messed up. I caused damage to this equipment. Mind you, it wasn't anything super severe, but it was still damage. Right.
Yeah.
And he would just sit there, and I was like, Dad, I said, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I wasn't paying attention. I'm going to totally eat this because it's my turn to eat the crow, so to speak. I'm sorry. I'll do my best to not let it happen again. And we were driving. Now this was down like Fort Myers, and we're driving home, and he's just like, I just don't see how. And like he would just like it was just like just go. We'd have the conversation. It would stop. It would go all the way back, and then start again, and then all.
Yeah.
And it's just he's
He's
like
just
and
going through the cycle,
and
just kept
and out
repeating, kept repeating.
and I just like and like he got to like an hour later. He's like, I'm like, Dad. I said, listen, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I did not live up to your expectations. And it kind of bugged me a little bit because it got brought up so much. Now, mind you, you're talking like a thin piece of metal that hangs off to one side that guides all of the soil and material into a chute to put it up the back into the truck bed of the vehicle you're driving. Oh, but he just would not let go. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it absolutely is. Like it says, just it's just all that kind of stuff. And then the last one is practice self-acceptance. Own your flaws and insecurities, which I tried to do just there, Dad. No one's perfect, and that's okay. Give yourself a break. Again, the biggest problem there, if anybody's into that whole astrology thing, I'm a Virgo, so that probably explains a lot of what you see in a very as I've been growing up, and now that I'm 37, a very self-deprecating sense of humor. So yeah, but what else did you want to add to that there, Alamo? I mean, knowing all those points here and the stuff you brought up earlier.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like I know, like with me, like you mentioned your dad. Like your dad kind of like, you know, kind of giving you crap about all that other stuff, and
I think he knew in like his own backwards like reverse psychology kind of way. Like he knew if I like really kicked my own ass mentally, like that mistake was not going to happen again, because one, I had to work with my boss who was the owner of the company, and he was an interesting individual. This
yeah,
guy was in the Marine Corps, and then he also became a CPA. So you can't tell him anything if it's not his own idea. So there's that. So it's
yeah,
just like, and he just kind of had his way of doing things. And I'm just like, ugh, here we go with more of this stuff. But, the few times I had to, I learned from it. And it was just like, okay, never again. Never
yeah.
again. Hell
And see,
fuck
that's
no.
and see, that's the thing is like beating yourself up. Like if there's anybody, oh God, if there's anybody that's like guilty of something like that, like just beating themselves up over and over and over and over and over again over something, it's me. Like especially when I make a mistake that I know is that I know I fucked up. I will.
I like
It's
to. I like the emphasis there. You're like, I know, I know, I know.
Yeah, like
Hey,
yeah.
shut up.
I
I think you dropped 3
I'm
octaves there, buddy.
yeah. I'm very incredibly hard on myself.
Yeah.
Um I, I guess just call it the nature of who I evolved into from when I was younger to like my military career and then everything else in between, then and now. But especially now, I'm very, if I mess up, it could be something very simple and like I'm trying to not mention something that's gonna um
It's got to do with your lovely wife, doesn't it?
I no. Well, I mean, there are some with her, but I'm not going to mention those either.
Okay.
The
Well, let's just put this shit in reverse and just back off this one-way street that dead ends.
but yeah, no,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I know for a fact when it could be something simple, it could be something big. Like something simple, I'll dwell on it for like, for like a while, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, okay, I guess there's nothing else I can do about it. But if it's something big, like the best one that I can come up with right now is when failing out of being a cop. Um, that right
And
there
look,
for me,
you can't get any more real than that. I mean,
yeah,
that's some real shit.
yeah, and it because I at the time I didn't really acknowledge it as issues that I was having. While I was just pegging it up to it's the learning curve, whatever, blah 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 blah, and but the most common thing I had been told while I was there was, well, they just want you to be a cop. They don't want, and with being a cop, it's all about the snap, the quick decisions. You gotta because sometimes the decision you make could be the difference between life and death
Of
for
course.
everybody around you, including yourself. It's no different than when you're a soldier. It's no different than when you're a Marine, airman, whatever the case may be, whatever your military service was. Hell, you could be an EMT. You know what I mean?
Firefighter. Absolutely.
Firefighters trying to save somebody's life or whatever. Those snap, quick decisions, you know, are key and important, and there's no room for second guessing. There's no room for any of that. And I found myself and call it the worst case of imposter syndrome. Like I was, I was dressed in the uniform and everything else, and I just didn't feel like, I was earning. I didn't feel like I was earning the title that I had been given yet. Like I'm like, man, like I'm trying to, because I wanted to be like the perfect cop where it was like, oh yeah, I'm a hard ass when I need to be and the nice guy when I need to be. You know what I mean? I was trying to go for this balance and
Well
it,
rounded. Yeah.
yeah, it was overthought. You know what I mean? It was overthought. And when I failed at it, you talk about just the amount of like, dude, you're such a fuck up. Like, why didn't you just listen to what they were saying? Like, everybody was telling you the same thing. Just be a cop. Just be a cop. Just be a cop. Just be a cop. And thinking about it now, it still really sucks. But I've started to kind of come to terms with it at this point now, where I learned to a not take it personally, and b, because for a time there I was pretty jaded. I really was
Oh
kind of
yeah.
you know really
Being
heavy.
your friend, like I remember that. Like you kind of, it was a little bit, you were a bit detached at times. You were just kind of like pushing the world away for a little bit because you've wanted this for so long and then it didn't happen. I can only imagine what that's like. You're just like,
Yeah,
ugh, you know.
especially to get it, and then it just like that,
Dissolve.
poof, gone. And I was like, oh, well, what? And then when I try to go back and try and get another job, nobody wants to get me. You know what I mean? The first place that did fired me. So, dude, it was bad. It was one of those things of just feeling like, I beat myself up hard too for a long time, dude, for a long time. Cause I said to myself, like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like that you're self-sabotaging yourself. You're being a jackass. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And what you just said, man, that's a huge part of that. That those inferiority complex and self-sabotage, man, they go pretty hand in hand. I mean,
yeah,
they're kind of symbiotic almost, where they feed off of each other. But I
yeah,
mean,
dude.
yeah, I get it. There's all kinds of different experience you can go through, whether it's military, whether it's employment wise, whether it's your personal life. I mean, something doesn't work out. Like I get it. You don't have the Hollywood, life or marriage that you wanted, or the relationship or whatnot. Whatever the case may be, like it happens. So the
Yeah.
best thing you can do is just, like you said, make peace with it and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and
Keep calm and drive on.
there you go. So tell us, folks, what are your thoughts and comments on this? Is there anything that you think we might have missed? Anything you think we hit around the nose? We'd love to hear your commentary on it. For those folks that are watching live, if you want to say something before we cut off, please feel free to do
Yeah.
so. When this video goes up
Please
later, when this video goes up later on YouTube, you can always add comments in the comment section of that, and then
we will answer them, folks. So that's a promise.
Yeah.
That's a promise you can be sure of.
Absolutely. So, well, I think that's it for this one. So let's start closing this out. So, when we started this show 4 months ago now, we were kind of thinking about, how can we brand ourselves? How can we, find something that's going to attract people to us? And one of the things that we decided to talk about was talking to other organizations. Like I remember, when we were in high school, it was what was the mantra that we had? It was like believe, achieve, succeed. Right. So, we were kind of thinking about what could we use to, help people out when things get going and things get tough and they're just a little bit sideways or not getting the traction they need to get through their week or even their day. So we came up with the Battle Bros code. And the only thing you have to remember is the word bros, BROS. Okay. Each one of those is a very important step. So number 1, be tenacious in every facet and aspect of your life. Do things to your 100% ability to the fullest measure possible. Just don't go through and half-ass stuff, because that's when bad things happen. Do everything you can to be the best at what you can do. Okay, whether it's being an employee, whether it's being a student, whether it's being a parent, whether it's being a brother, a friend, a confidant, somebody. Take that responsibility and take it to the fullest possible extent. Okay. R, refuse to surrender. There are going to be things that happen in your life where they don't go as you want. Things are going to get you stuck in a rut. Hey, I think we just talked about that. Wow. Things are going to happen where you're not, able to continue forward doing the things you want to do. Okay. Don't let it beat you. It's going to be better for you. Well, let me say it that way. Anytime you have those experiences, it's a test. Okay. It's a test of your willpower. It's a test of your composure. It's a test of your, your refusal to surrender. Don't let these things happen. Accept what happened and then go back to it. Maybe try it from a different angle. You never know what's going to happen. Oh, obliterate your obstacles. Kind of going in conjunction with the last topic point we talked about. Okay. There are going to be times when you get stopped dead in your tracks. There's going to be times where you have to take detours. It might be longer than the trip itself, but you have to take a detour. Okay. That's fine. Just know and remember to keep your objective, your goals in mind, and keep them fresh in your head so that you can reach and hit the X on the OBJ, on the objective. Okay. Don't let things get you twisted. Sometimes you got to go a quarter mile backwards before you start tracking back north again. And that's fine. Let those things happen. It's part of the process. Okay. The last one is our most important one. That's S. It's seek out a friend in need in the time of need.
Time of need.
Thank you for curing me of my mush mouth here. Like, let me just say it and say it in my NPR voice. Seek out a friend in time of need.
You must seek out a friend in a time of need.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent NPR voice. That's fantastic. So what this means, folks, is we all face stuff. We all face challenges in our daily lives, in our weekly lives, in our lives in general. Okay. Humans are not isolationists. We are designed to be social creatures, much like wolves, or much like a group of monkeys in the wild, or gorillas, or whatnot. We're very social. Okay. That being said, utilize that tool. Utilize the fact that we can lean on other people. Okay. There's going to be times when you may have some thoughts in your head that aren't really copacetic to live in your best life. There's going to be times when things get you, sideways, twisted, off kilter, off balance, whatever. Okay. I know if I ever need it, I can call this guy right here, and he's going to pick up the phone and just be like, "Hey man, what you need? What's up?" And I would do the same thing for him, because we've done it. We've done that before. Okay.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid, let me take a step back. We talk, a lot of talk lately has been on, the coronavirus pandemic, the COVID pandemic, all that kind of stuff. There's another pandemic, and that is the amount of service members that
taking their own lives.
That take their own lives on a daily basis. Is usually around the average of about 22. And let's face it, that's way too damn many.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact that people aren't getting the resources they need, they aren't getting the help that they need, we got to fix that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say seek out a friend. If anything, sit down, talk with a friend. Maybe you can figure out a solution amongst it. There's a saying when it comes to the training of the firearms world. That's 2 is 1, 1 is none.
If
one
I was
breaks
wondering
down,
if you were going to get to that one, man. I was because I was thinking about it.
Absolutely. So basically what that means is, like, let's say you go to like a course. Okay. If you take 2 firearms with you for the course, because if your gun breaks down, now you got a backup. If you don't have a backup, you're broken down. Okay. 2 heads are better than 1. 2 people able to talk about stuff is always better than 1. Okay. Don't go through things alone. Seek out your battles, man. Call up your old battles from when you're in the military. Just be, hey, battle, I need some help. I'm not doing it in a good place. Even if it's on the phone. If you can meet up in person, great. But if it's on the phone, go for it, man. Absolutely. If you don't have that option available to you, hold that thought. If you don't have that option available to you.
All right there, Marco.
I don't understand the reference of that.
You don't remember Marco Rubio taking a drink on live television?
Oh, dude, I don't watch politics. I don't watch that crap. Whatever. Anyway, if you don't have those kind of options or friends available to you, if you're thinking of doing harm to yourself, there is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All you have to do is call up. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, it's 1-800-273-8255. If you're thinking of harming yourself, I believe you press the 1 for the first prompt, and they'll get you in touch with somebody that can help you out and whatnot. But, as we say every single week, we don't want a temporary problem to be solved and fixed with a permanent solution. Okay.
Correct.
Again, 22 a day. That's how many people off themselves. And that's that we got to get that to stop. That's not acceptable. And if it doesn't freaking gall you down to the core, or just make you enraged that happens, then, it should. So,
yeah.
But that's what we're here to do, folks. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. Is we want to talk about things that aren't comfortable to talk about, so we can just maybe have that connection and other people to go, dude, yeah, 100%. I'm going through the same shit. Like, somebody out there gets it. We're trying to build a community. We want to have people not afraid to reach out and talk about things. There's a lot of things that are considered stigma. Come on, it's like, come on, man, it's 2021. Like, let's kill a lot of these stigmas and get everybody to actually 100% legitly be living their best life, and that's important. So
Yar.
I'm about out of gas, man. What you got? Anything else to add before we sign off?
If you guys want to catch us over on the social medias, over on the Facebook, you
My
could catch us.
dude.
You could catch us there over on www.facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. Also, we got an Instagram. You can always catch us over there at excuse me, BattleBros_podcast. And you can also catch us on all of our listening platforms, which is Anchor, Spotify, and I believe it's also Apple Podcasts, which I'm still not getting notifications about, but as far as I'm aware, we are still being distributed on just over 5 platforms, including YouTube. So if you guys are wanting to catch us, you can catch us on all of those places, and on the Facebook and Instagram, you can actually have conversations with us and send messages. So go ahead and drop us some lines there, and you can get in contact with us via instant messenger on the Facebook as well, which will also connect you to the WhatsApp instant messaging system, where you can talk to us directly.
And the last thing we want to say about all this stuff, all this outreach is, the biggest one. I still feel that, one of the biggest forms of advertisement is word of mouth. If you have anybody in your life that, just may need something different, and maybe give them that spark of inspiration, or just kind of pick them up off the ground after having a rough day, tell them about our show, man. If anything, they're going to look at us or watch us or listen to us and just be like, these guys are kind of dumbasses. I mean, they're asshats with microphones, but you know what? They bring up some good points here. So it's like, okay, maybe I'll come back next week. We get it. It's a Friday night. There's a lot of stuff going on around America and around the world right now. I mean,
Yeah.
People are at football games. They're out with their kids doing stuff. If you have a kid that plays high school football or marching band or cheerleading or something like that, you're probably not watching our show right now. But hey, that's the great thing about modern technology. It's like, you can go back and watch this stuff later or listen to it later once it comes out, man.
And besides, instead of like going on and watching fucking Netflix or fucking the news or something that's always like, oh, blah, 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 blee, blee. Go ahead and watch our show and do something constructive with yourself and learn some shit. Right?
Some shit? Learn some shit?
Learn some shit.
Okay. Keeping it PG over here.
Do so, yeah, I gotta, just in case other people are listening. No, but hey, we're here for you. Help us, help you.
that needs to be said, but at the same time, it's like, help us, help you? Question mark. Damn it! You got to be careful what you put on the teleprompt. He will read it, folks. I'm Ron Burgundy. So, but anyway, that's gonna wrap up our show for this week. Again, we say it beginning of the show, we want to say at the end of the show, we want to say thank you to everybody that continues to watch the show. We appreciate the viewership. This is not a small undertaking. It's very, very dual dependent with us putting on the show and with folks like yourself listening to the show to say, hey, I heard this show. It's called Battle Bros. That one guy, Alamo, easy on the eyes. He's pretty funny. The other guy, Mac, he's just kind of a dumbass, and he's hideous to look at. So again, there's my self-deprecating humor, like I said. Despite all that, they talk about some pretty good stuff. So please tell your friends about the show if you think it can be beneficial to them. If not, please tell your friends about the show just so we get some more freaking people listening to it, and it can spread like a California wildfire where it just goes.
Oh yeah.
Goes everywhere. So with that being said, we're going to wrap it up. So this is episode 15, talking about the Inferiority Complex. We will look forward to seeing you next week about the same time. Until that time, just remember to be safe and stay alert, everybody out there in the real world. It's it can be a crazy place at times. Just remember to look out for yourself and your family and your friends and your loved ones and all that good stuff. So until then, this is Mac.
And Alamo.
And we are the Battle Bros Podcast. We will see you next week around this time. Thank you so much. And until then, we will catch you on the flip side. So y'all take it easy.
Battle Bros out.